All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Office Hours with Dr. Swathi. I'm here on behalf of the MSL Academy, and our goal is to help aspiring MSLs and current MSLs excel in their careers. So today we are joined by Hubert, and would love to just hand it right over to you so you can introduce yourself and let everyone know a little bit about your background.
Okay. Thank you, Swathi, and I want to thank and welcome everyone here. My headset is not working, so I don't need that. So my name is Hubert Sindjui. I'm a pharmd. I'm currently working as a senior medical science liaison for a pharma company. So I am thrilled to be here with you all. I look forward to a successful conversation, and back to you, Swathi.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much for the intro. So would love to ask you next, how did you first hear about the MSL role?
Thanks for that question, Swati. And I heard about this role actually in such an unconventional way. I went to pharmacy school back in 2009. I'm a 2013 graduate, and I, as many pharmacists, or the majority of pharmacists, I started a career in community pharmacy, where I worked for 5 years, then moved into clinical pharmacy, and then also ambulatory care. And an MSL that used to come to my pharmacy and talk with me and try to, provide information about a product came to me one day, and we have been seeing each other for almost a year. And then she said, "So Hubert, why are you here?" And I say, "What do you mean, why am I here?" And she said, "I think you could be a good MSL." I said, "What is MSL?" She said, "That's what I'm doing. That's what I've been coming here for." So I was not curious, surprisingly, to know her position, what the role she was on when she came to see me as a pharmd, trying to inform me about her product, about how it works, safety compared to other products. And at that point, I was like, "Okay, tell me more about it." And that's how I learned about MSL. So I was in my job, doing my job, loving what I did until I heard about MSL, and I was like, "I need to look into this."
Yes, amazing. And so as you learned more about the role, what was it about the MSL role that helped you decide, you know what, I'm ready to leave clinical pharmacy to do something completely different?
There's so many things to say about the MSL role that differentiate, that separates this role from the other conventional pharmacy roles. But if I had to pick one reason that it created that aha moment for me, is the quality of life balance. As an MSL, in most company, you are an independent employee. Basically, you create your schedule around your life. For someone raising 4 kids like me, that to me was the aha moment. I could create my own schedule. I could work independently at home, from home, meet people at my own time, and quite frankly, have that kind of peer-to-peer discussion with specialists, because MSL means not just general prescriber and so on. They meet specialists, so you basically talking with the smartest people in the medical field, and those two things basically uh, made me say, this is where I want to be.
Amazing. So you started talking about it a little bit, but would love to hear, for people who are joining us who maybe they've heard the term medical science liaison, they've heard the acronym, but they don't actually really know what the role entails. Could you tell everyone how you would define, being an MSL and what that means?
Being an MSL, in other words, is just being a pharmacist. You are an expert in, medication safety, medication information, uh, everything around medication. Being an MSL, I think to me is a notch up. You are now being an expert in a very specific field or on a very specific product. And I explained that this way. When I first came into medical science liaison into the pharma industry, my first job was MSL for a company that produced HIV medicines. So, mind you, in pharmacy school, that's the last thing I wanted to hear about HIV medicines. So, working in the field, being an MSL for a company that made 100% HIV medicine, I was forced to learn about HIV, learn about the medicines, learn about the competitors' products, and learn everything because when you go to a doctor, you basically are the brain of that therapeutic area or of the product you are trying to sell to the doctor. Or I didn't mean to use the word sell, but the product you're trying to promote. Uh, as an MSL, the one thing that is different from being a general pharmacist is that you are focused on one specific either disease state or product, and you are basically the expert for that product or disease states. So, if you think about it this way, being in for HIV for 5 years, although I didn't like for HIV in pharmacy school, I think I think I'm a expert in in the HIV field at this time. And now I moved out of the HIV because I wanted to know another area. And when you're dispensing medicine in a pharmacy or at a clinical pharmacy in a hospital, you think you know a lot. That's true, you know a lot. But as an expert or as a MSL, think about it. You're focusing on that one product every day of your life, and you have people live in companies for 20 years. So, do you think they know that product? Yes. Do you think they still know they need to know more about it? Yes. So, there's a lot more to know about medicine than even pharmacists think. And being an MSL gives you that opportunity to actually deep dive into whichever therapeutic area or product you are in to actually command and be the expert of that specific medicine or therapeutic area.
Yeah, that's a great description. And so now that you had decided, we're going back in the future, right? So you are a clinical pharmacist, you learned about the role, and, now you have decided that you want to take that next step to break into the industry. So what were some of the first steps you took and what was the outcome?
The first step I took, and and I can imagine most people here have done that, is that I went on LinkedIn and applied on all the MSL jobs that I saw, coming up in my feed. So that was my first step. Once I learned about the job, I Googled it. I saw how, independent people were working on as MSL. I saw the salaries compared to my salary. I saw the quality life balance. As I talked to more and more MSLs, I started applying. I applied for about, I would say, 2 years, not one response. And finally, I met an amazing person, Dr. Sidoni Niba. It's not a secret. She has worked a lot to help people learn about this role and actually apply for those roles. And basically, I connected with her, and I'm one of the first graduate of this program, the MSL Academy. So I registered for this program as soon as I learned about it because I was already very interested and informed about the MSL role. So as soon as I learned about the MSL Academy, I registered for it. I worked very hard to graduate out of it. And as soon as I graduated out of the academic program, uh, I totally understood immediately why, after 2 years of applying, no one contacted me back. I was doing it all wrong. So this process has helped me understand how to apply for the MSL job, understand the MSL role, and I would say confidently I aced it on my interviews.
Wow, amazing. And so, what do you think the MSL Academy has over other programs that you may have considered? Like why this one? Like why do you think it was so successful? Was it the course content? Was it the mentorship? Like what was it?
Uh, I will be honest that I could be biased answering this question because I'm a graduate and I'm a proud graduate of this program. But it's an all-rounded project or program. Uh, the first thing that the MSL Academy has over all the other program that I've seen so far is that it's done by pharmacists, and most of the pharmacists that are actually uh, coaching, mentoring people through this academy are previous or past graduate of the academy. So as people have come through this program and graduated from it, this program has reached out to them, and some of them have accepted to come back and give back to other pharmacists that are interested in becoming MSLs. So the first thing is that it's a program by people that have gone through the program, that are pharmacists, that have been pharmacists in whatever area you are in now and trying to come into the MSLs, you name it, community pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, government pharmacy. The mentors, the preceptors are all from those areas of pharmacies that you are in. So if this doesn't convince you, um, I don't know what else will convince you. This is program made by people that been through the program, done it, love it, and are back to help you all go through it as well.
Amazing. And one of the things you mentioned as you were learning more about the role is networking and that you were reaching out to MSLs and speaking to them. Can you talk a little bit more about how networking has influenced your career path?
Uh, yes. So, and this question hits me in the heart because I've been on both sides, right? As a community pharmacy or even clinical pharmacy, I never had the opportunity to travel or even to meet through my job. I went in and clocked in at 7, 8, or 9 a.m., clocked out after 12 hours, even though I was being paid 8 or 10. So basically, I was in that box, in that bubble, closed bubble. The MSL job, and this is my second MSL job I'm holding now. Uh, you get at least 3, 4 opportunities to travel to conferences around the country in both jobs are held. And those opportunities, I mean, talk about, I just came from an endo meeting last year where there were over 20,000 providers. I went to HIV conferences where there were 15,000 HIV experts attending a conference. So think about the opportunity that this gives you as a person, as a professional, as a, I don't know, you name it. So, and not only that, even in the community, now you have time to plan things. You are again meeting people on your own schedule, on your own time. I get to conferences for pharmacist organizations uh, of my origins. I go every year because I can plan. I choose when I take my vacation. There's no discussion about that. Most companies, MSL, take vacations when they want to. Some companies even give you uh, unlimited vacation time. Basically, when I heard that first time, I couldn't believe it, but true. You just go. You just tell your supervisor, I need some time off and go. So all that gives you time to do what? To network with your professional friends, family in the community, network with professionals, friends, family on LinkedIn, wherever you want. So networking is a no-brainer when you're an MSL. I have MSL friends that are on LinkedIn 24/7 because they love it. I am not on LinkedIn 24/7, but if that's what you like, if that's what you love, networking with professionals, MSL is the place to be.
Great. Yeah. And I do see a question in the chat. So, um, I think I pronounce it Desiree. So how much is the MSL Academy and how do you apply? So you can go to the MSLacademy.com to check out some of our programs and our services. And in terms of application, we have a discovery call, so you can sign up for a discovery call. We also have a free masterclass, so you can do the free masterclass. So please check that out. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to direct message Hubert or myself, and we're happy to provide you more information. And thank you for the question in the chat overall. So if anyone else has any other questions, this is meant to be interactive. So any questions that you have for either of us about the MSL role, and I mean, I have a full list over here, and I'm going to continue if I don't see anything else in the chat, but if anyone else has any other questions about what it's like to transition and break into the MSL career and excel at it, please do not hesitate to put it in the chat. Alrighty, so the next question I wanted to ask was, how was that transition from being a clinical pharmacist, clocking in, clocking out, working 12-hour shifts? What was the transition like from going from that to the MSL role?
I would say the transition was not easy. Not easy in the sense that breaking habits, right? And I would say this in a funny way. In most companies, they'll give you a mentor when you first hired. And one day, I was just chatting with my mentor, because a mentor is there for you to ask questions that you don't necessarily need to go to the leadership with. So it's a peer. It's an horizontal peer. And one day, I call my mentor and say, "Wow, this whole week, I don't have anything on my calendar. I'm freaking out. What do I need to do? I'm not sure what to do." And I never forget what she told me. She said, "Never tell people what you do when you're an MSL. Never tell people." So I came through that education or a professional mindset that I had to tell my supervisor each time what I was doing. He had to check over my shoulders. I had to report. And if even if I'm not asked to report, I have to show that I'm doing something, because I used to get calls, "How many positions did you do today?" And I used to expect those calls and be thinking if I'm below what I'm supposed to do and so forth. So in the MSL role, it took me time to understand that I was really on my own. My own, not meaning that I did not have to report to somebody, but I was the one to create my own schedule, manage it, and make it happen. So if you are not a self-starter, this can be difficult to you. But fortunately for me, I am a self-starter. I just came from a mindset that I had to explain everything I was doing. But I find myself in a situation now where I do things and it shows itself. If you're actually doing something, you don't need to tell people you are doing it. So in my 6th year of MSL, now I understand that your supervisor is there to check in once a week, once a month, just to, make sure you have everything you need to do your job. And it's not there for you to every day go to him and say, "Oh, I need a pen, I need a..." No, you get a credit card. If you need something for your work, you go get it. You don't ask anybody. If you need so you got to be a self-starter. You got to be a mature person. You got to be somebody that is understanding the responsibility that is placed in you and act on it. And it's very important when you come in as an MSL.
Yes, great. And so, yeah, to go back to the chat. So yes, Desiree, there is a fee for the Academy. Please go to the MSLacademy.com and you'll see the different programs and services that we have there. Again, if you have any questions more specific to the MSL Academy itself, please do not hesitate to direct message me or Hubert. Okay, so then we have another question in the chat. Any tips for NPs trying to get into the MSL position? Do you work with any MPs right now?
No, but in my previous company, yes. So NPs are professionals, and let me just tell you this. So if you go on LinkedIn, generally the job posting will tell you the diploma or the degrees that are required for that job. trust that if your diploma is not required, it's not listed on the diplomas or degrees that are required, please don't waste your time applying. Is extremely, extremely selective. But I've seen jobs that hire NPs. And again, in my previous job, we had MPs. They were not MSL, they were medical community medical liaison. So they were in charge of going and educating patients and providers how to. We designed we brought on the market one of the most popular HIV drug, Cabenuva. So our community medical liaison were hired to go teach clinical community centers how to inject Cabenuva, because it uses a Z-track technique, a very specific technique to inject it safely and effectively. So in my current job, no, but in my previous job, yes. Your best place to check is on that job, on that job advertisement.
So I'll add another dimension to that. Generally, when I look at job descriptions, I look at them as just recommendations. So if, like, let's say a role is posted, so I'm a pharmacist by trade. If a role is posted and it says, physician and PhD preferred or something like that, I will still apply, even though it's not like necessarily listed as their top priority, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, what they want to understand, they being the hiring managers, is, are you equipped with the acumen to break down complicated information and convey it to an audience, speak to healthcare providers on a peer-to-peer kind of level, and be able to present information, whether that's presenting to the HCPs one-on-one or
Mhm.
presenting that information at a conference, for example?
Mhm.
And are you able to create those long-standing relationships? I mean, depending on the company, you might be entering a therapeutic area or a new product to market where there are no standing relationships and you have to go start them all from scratch. So to me, it's more of, are you able to demonstrate those transferable skills? And I've been a hiring manager before, so I think every hiring manager kind of thinks a little bit differently. Some will be like, this is what the job description says, and therefore we will not accept anyone else. Whereas, I'm more interested in the transferable skills. And if it says, MD or PhD preferred, and I'm a pharmd or you're an NP, I would still suggest you apply if you are, applying to a number of roles. And that being said, there are some MSL roles that specifically say, NP, PA, pharmd, MD. So it's definitely not out of the question, and I wouldn't count yourself out.
But thanks for adding that,
Yeah,
Swathi. I
definitely.
couldn't agree more.
Okay, amazing. So, now that you've been in the MSL role for 6 years, incredible. I would love to hear, some changes that you've seen in the MSL role from being an MSL and now you're a senior MSL. So, what changes have you seen in the role or in medical affairs in general? How has it evolved?
I would say it's I'm not gonna describe any general trend or changes in the role in general, but I have the advantage of working with two different companies, and quite frankly, it's not the same thing. Every company have a way to use the MSL. Some company have bigger territories, some have smaller, and some companies give even more, I would say, independence to the MSL compared to others. So these are not really changes, because I don't know about the entire industry, but I'm seeing differences as you move between companies. One important difference I can talk about is a difference between a small pharma company and a large pharma company. A small pharma company is, you have companies out there that have one product or two. That's it. So the small company, they have 100, 200, 300 employees. Those companies tend to, I would say, pay more, give more, um, I would say, give more in benefits compared to large company. Large company give you security. They pay, I would say, fairly high, but you don't get that much benefit in a large company, because I mean, it's like, you know, John Hopkins. If you want to work at John Hopkins, most people know. I talk about John Hopkins because I live in the Baltimore. I live in the Maryland area. They don't pay that well, but they are the biggest, one of the biggest institution in America, maybe in the world. So that's exactly what you see in the MSL role. I've noticed that large companies, they tend to pay more, but the benefits is a little smaller. Small companies pay, less, and so forth, and also the independence. And I say again, small companies, you have one MSL director for 3, 4 people. So there's a lot more attention on that, on each MSL. I'm working now with a company where my MSL director has 10 people. That's a lot of people. We go months without talking, and it's fine. I'm doing my job. If he wants to know what I'm doing, there's a place to go look what I'm doing. He only comes to me when he has questions. I go to him when I have questions. We don't have to meet. We're doing the job. So I would say uh, the difference lie into the company, the size, the company that you work in. Sometimes also where the company is based. I heard European-based company, they tend to act differently. Instead of
They
giving,
do. Yeah, I can speak to that. Yeah, they act very differently if they're like a US company versus a like a French
yeah,
company or a German company,
yes,
definitely. And
yes,
it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like a very different culture of
it's
like,
different.
okay,
It's
we're going to
different.
take off
Yeah.
these different holidays, like
Hmm.
different ideas about like taking time off, and
Yeah.
it's different cultures.
It's
Yeah,
different.
they're like their own worlds, really.
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Bottom line is that the MSL job, I would say, uh, if I had to start over, I would take any MSL job as at an entry point. Why? Because again, it's a step away from the clocking in, the control. I mean, you have, every company will give you at least the work-life balance that you need as a professional to do your job. But again, those differences, and a lot of times, are minimal. They balance off at the end.
Yes, definitely. And we have an amazing question in the chat. All the questions have been so good. One of them is about the interview process and what the interview process is like. I know that this can differ from company to company, but can you speak a little bit about the interview process from your perspective? And then I'm happy to add my 2 cents as a hiring manager.
Yes. So the interview process, and I can speak about it because I went through it all at least twice now. No, more than twice, because it's not all interviews I went to that worked out, and
Yes.
it's a very selective
Same.
process. But most companies will give you at least 4 interviews. You have a screening interviews with interview with HR. Sometimes it's not even the HR that give you that screening; it's somebody, a third party. Then you get to the HR. Then you have an interview with the hiring manager. Then you have an interview with generally the hiring manager and the other MSL directors that are on the team. So think about it. When I talk about difference earlier, if you have a small company with only one MSL director, you're gonna only get one interview with the hiring manager, not the team. And then at the end, you get a presentation interview. This is the time where you show people that you can translate science to them. And most companies will tell you, choose your topic. So you choose a topic that you are very comfortable in, so you can shine. So the interview process, again, basically, is at least it's between 3 to 5 interviews. Now, depending on the company and depending on the needs, that those 5 interview can take 2 months, and other companies can take 6, and also depending on the screening process. So the company I'm working with now, it took a month and a half only to go through 4 interviews,
Very
because
quick.
they wanted to hire, and I was also ready to move. So uh, if you are a top candidate, they don't waste time. They move you up. They interview you the next day or the same day. You get an email. You've been moved up to the next interview. And again, I interviewed the second time. The next day, I learned that I was being flown to Chicago for my presentation interview. I went there, I interviewed, and 1 week later, I got a letter of uh, of approval. So the interview process, and I would say the one thing that you have on your side in this MSL Academy is that the MSL Academy is with you all the way. Each step, even on my second interview process, I came back to the MSL Academy and seek help and seek mentorship. I want to be prepared for each of those interviews because getting an interview is a big achievement. Blowing it up is on you, basically. So you do your best to be prepared, get somebody else to look at what you're preparing on, get somebody else to do exactly what I'm doing now, to ask you questions, answer them, and read your body language, learn about where you're struggling. I can talk all day about interview process, about how to prepare your questions and so on. But I'm glad the MSL Academy is now to do that for you guys. But I would say my one word of wisdom is this: is preparation, preparation, preparation. If you get one interview invitation, you need to nail it down.
Absolutely. Yeah. And would love to hear, your perspective on and this was something I went through and learned the hard way as well. So I'll give my 2 cents. But what was your perspective on, the scientific presentation and pick your own topic? Because like different hiring managers, some of them are like, they say pick your own topic, but they mean, talk about a drug or something going on in this therapeutic area. And then other ones are, like very much like choose your own topic for real. So would love to hear your perspective on that, and then I'll add mine.
Okay, so it goes two ways. So when I got my interview from the HIV company I worked for, I chose a topic on HIV. And I chose a topic on HIV because I was very comfortable. I was coming from a clinical pharmacist job where I was working as an HIV clinical pharmacist. I was very comfortable with it. So, and when I was invited to this second interview to the job I am now, I did not choose a topic in that area because the area was new to me, and I did not want to embarrass myself. Because yes, they're looking on how you can present, but you have to be able to talk about the data, and basically you're teaching a monkey how to how to eat bananas, basically. So my take is, if you are comfortable in the disease state, in the therapeutic area that you're interviewing in, choose it a topic that will make them feel good about you, that will show them that I mean, that you're coming in with something. Now, if you are not sure, if you are not in that therapeutic area, choose somebody that you are comfortable in. I did not present for thyroid eye disease. I'm in thyroid eye disease now. I did not present on it, but I still got a job. And it was very, very highly competitive, this job. So I chose not to present on it. I never heard of thyroid eye disease before this job. So I was like, how am I going to learn this and talk about it as an expert? So you have to know how to play these things. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would fully agree. It's like you have to, whatever you're going to talk about, you have to be the expert on it. And so sometimes, the scientific presentation might be evaluate this clinical research paper and tell me about it, tell me what I need to know. Or it could be, talk about any topic you want, right? So it kind of just depends on how open-ended the hiring manager or the team allows you. But definitely go in with confidence and be ready to answer a lot of questions. So I would agree with the majority of what you said. And really, it's let's say you're going into a therapeutic area that you have no experience in. What you have to be able to demonstrate in the scientific presentation and in other parts of your interview is that even though I don't know about it now, I have all the skills and capability and curiosity, and I'm willing to put effort to actually learn about it. And so that's what really has to come across, is that being a self-starter, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. But also that curiosity and overall just interest in ongoing learning to stay on top of the trends and stay on top of, what's going on in that therapeutic area to actually really benefit the KOLs that you're interacting with. Yeah, so definitely would agree and would add that little bit. I do see a great question as a follow-up in the chat. So how do you prepare for your presentation? I can add a little 2 cents first. So what I would say for preparing for a presentation is, that preparation aspect. How are you going to do it though? Is, pretend that maybe it's your significant other, maybe it's your friends, maybe it's a mentor or fellow colleagues. but hop on a Zoom if it's going to be virtual or if it's going to be in person. Present to them as though you would be presenting in the actual scientific presentation part of the interview. So, go through it and do it exactly as how you would want to convey the information. I would say ideally present to people if it's a topic that, let's say you're going for a job in HIV, but your therapeutic area of expertise at this point is metastatic breast cancer. Talk about metastatic breast cancer and present to someone who's not an expert in metastatic breast cancer to see if they are understanding what you're saying and if the way that you're articulating it is resonating with the audience. So that would be great. They can also probably help you figure out what sorts of questions based on the questions they're asking that might help you figure out, okay, what sorts of questions maybe will the audience be asking me, whether that's the panel or the hiring manager. What I like to do, which is a little bit extra, but I've been called that before, is that, with that preparation aspect and you figure out what are some of the top questions they might answer, create slides that answer those questions that are after the thank you slide. So just in case they ask those, you can flip to them and it makes you look really prepared. And they're just as a backup. No one might ask you those questions, but you've done that level of preparation that it makes you look like, wow, yes, I've thought through exactly how this would go. And again, this is the way that they're going to think about if they're going to put you in the field to represent the company. This is a demonstration of what you would do when you're presenting to a KOL or presenting to a healthcare provider in your region or in your area, is that you are going to come that prepared, thinking ahead to what sorts of questions are going to be asked. And then you not only are prepared with the answer, you're prepared with a slide that can answer that question. So that's one tip, but it's all about getting comfortable with conveying the information and coming off as the expert to me.
Yes, and I would just thanks, Swathi, for that great answer, detailed answer. But I would just add also, uh, the, so again, coming back into the area you are venturing in, if you prepare presenting HIV to an HIV company, I hope you expect that you're gonna have a lot of questions, right? So the advantage of picking a subject that is not known to the audience is that you can protect yourself. You are actually the expert in the room. If you're talking breast cancer to an HIV expert, most likely, you are the expert, and you can basically shine at that time. The other thing I wanted to add, I will always make sure that there's nothing on my slides, a word, a sentence, anything that I cannot explain. Nothing. So I go slide by slide, word by word, and comb it and make sure that I'm not just reading what is on my slide. I'm actually talking about it. I'm understanding it. Because that's one mistake that we do. You have a slide, you have a deck exactly the way, I don't know where you got it or you prepared it. And I mean, if you cannot answer a question on one slide, take it down. That's a big tip that I give is everyone. But this program also has a huge preparation program for MSL, for incoming MSL. It's a lot to talk about, and for the interest of the time, um, I'll pass it back to you, Swati.
Yes, definitely. Okay, great. So, what would you say to someone who feels like they don't have the right set of experiences to be successful in an MSL role? The reason I'm asking this is because a lot of MSL job postings say required or recommended 1 to 2 years of MSL experience. So, how would you respond to someone who says, I don't feel like I have enough experience to get this role?
I would say, look at me. I got into MSL with 0 years of experience, and everybody get into MSL. Everybody has a first job. So we are pharmacists. Hello. So what I would say, and the company I worked for before, they only hired clinical pharmacists and people with no MSL experience. The company I'm working with now, they were hiring people with MSL experience because they were looking for senior MSLs. So if you, I'm sure a lot of companies will say we need 1 to 2 years MSL experience, but that means you have not looked at all of them. There are some companies that are not saying that. And again, look at me. I came from clinical pharmacy with zero MSL experience, and I applied on LinkedIn. I found my job on LinkedIn, my two jobs. So that is not the entire. I mean, that is not the whole picture. Not all companies are requiring MSL experience, and if you know, and some of those jobs, once in a while, I will apply to. Swati talked about, preferred doesn't mean that if you don't have it, you don't qualify, right? So if you show that you have a lot of clinical experience in, let's say, diabetes, a company that is looking for diabetes expert, they're looking for 1 to 2 years experience, they might bring you in for an interview because you've demonstrated that you've been, a clinical pharmacist taking care of diabetes for 5, 6, 10 years, and they say, hey, they might not have MSL experience, but they have the clinical experience and they're teachable. So I will not stop there. You can continue to look, but if it's preferred, I will sometimes, once in a while, I will take a chance and apply.
Yeah, I would also add that, you don't need clinical experience to excel in the MSL role. And so we're giving a lot of examples of, being clinical pharmacists, but it's all about how you frame your experience. And so let's say you're a PhD and you did your PhD in microbiology and you're really interested in becoming an MSL. So how are you going to demonstrate that your previous experience with bench research, submitting manuscripts, presenting at conferences, doing academic posters, how does that all translate to being a successful MSL, right? So you don't need clinical experience. The other thing is I love to talk to community pharmacists or people who are like internal medicine doctors, for example, who are maybe their PAs or NPs that work in a primary care setting. They see so many different disease states every single day. Like chances are, if you're seeing patients, that you're seeing diabetes, you're seeing cardiometabolic diseases, you're seeing endocrinology related disease, you're seeing so many things. And so how are you going to approach an interview that's, let's say, a diabetes position with being a community pharmacist or being a primary care, NP or something like that? It's talking about specifically what experiences you had with patients with diabetes. And so just because you're not a specific therapeutic area expert yet doesn't mean that you can't speak to certain experiences that you had before. So don't discount your clinical or non-clinical experience just if that you don't have that specific specialty.
Swati, I just want to add this, please. Yes, and I really, really appreciate that you brought that up. Clinical pharmacy is my experience. That's why it's coming up a lot. But don't think that is the pathway. We were talking about my pathway, right? So just so you know, even through this program, we coached community pharmacists, hospital pharmacists, all kinds of pharmacists into MSL. So it's all about demonstrating that you have expertise or experience with something. And I just want to add this, Swati. A company, let's pick a diabetes company, right? So when they're looking for an MSL, medical science liaison, somebody that is gonna provide scientific data about the product to the providers. Okay, the one thing they're looking for is somebody that understands diabetes, somebody that has experience managing diabetes. So not necessarily a clinical pharmacist. I was a community pharmacy. I used to host classes for diabetic patients, taking them down into the store to help them count calories, pick right food, and so forth. That resonated well on my resume when I was looking for my first MSL job. So yes, 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 Swati, you're correct. Being a clinical pharmacist is not a requirement; is an addition. But you can go from managed care pharmacy. I have a good friend that just broke into MSL from managed care pharmacy. So from any corner of pharmacies, and most MSLs are are pharmds. I know a lot of MSLs that don't have any specific certification and so on. So please don't get discouraged because you are not a clinical pharmacist. It's not a requirement. A pharmacist is all you need. Whatever area you're in, find a way to demonstrate that you have expertise or experience in a specific topic or disease state area.
Yeah, and it's not just pharmacy as well, like NPs, PAs, MDs, PhDs. I've worked with so many different MSLs across the gamut that
Yep.
have tons of different experience, which is why I was giving the, example of primary care NP or, a diabetic specialist PA. So lots of different opportunities. We do have two really good questions in the chat. So let's address those. So the first one is, are there any companies you can recommend that hire zero experience MSLs with a strong NP background? And then this person, so Desiree, also added some therapeutic areas. So I would start searching online and start searching to see, like, the way I would answer this is just starting to Google or ChatGPT and asking, what are some of the companies that are in these specific therapeutic areas? Like a lot of the ones you listed, like infectious disease, a lot of companies are exploring infectious disease, but maybe women's health and fertility is a bit more specific. And so I would just start Googling and seeing what companies come up and then looking and seeing what those job descriptions say. So I don't know any off the top of my head, and any answer I would give you would be after Googling. So I would suggest doing that. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, unfortunately, I don't know any specific company that.
Yeah, I mean, but also it's shifting too. So as Hubert mentioned, sometimes companies say, that they're only going to go for no experience. Sometimes they say only 1 to 2 years experience, and the same company can shift the way they do it. So just because, I might think of some companies that have zero experience, I don't know if it's still the same, because at the end of the day, it's the hiring manager that kind of defines a lot of that. So if the hiring manager is switching out, going to a different company, then it can change. So it's something that just requires the research. And what I do is when I'm looking for jobs, especially when I'm honing in on different therapeutic areas, is I'll make a spreadsheet and I'll see what jobs are currently listed. Generally, when you're applying to jobs, I would not suggest you applying to a job that has been listed for longer than a week, because in a week they've probably gotten already 400 or 500 applications. So if you're not within the first few days of it being posted, they might not even end up looking at your resume. So you might view that as like, oh my God, I'm getting a rejection, but chances are they haven't even looked at it, right? So sometimes it's a numbers game. So going to LinkedIn, going to different job platforms and posting, not posting, but signing up for the alerts when a new job is being posted, so immediately, all right, it's time for me to apply in the first 72 hours, because they might not see your application after. And so if you're just looking on LinkedIn, there are so many jobs that were posted like 2, 4, 8 weeks ago that the job posting is still there. And so if you're applying to those, you might not be seen, whereas you might be like an awesome candidate for the role. And that's the thing too, is that oftentimes a lot of people applying are qualified to be MSLs. It's just, how are they standing out in terms of their CV and their interviews? And that leads us to the next question. The next question in the chat, which is also great, is what should my CV look like? Is it no longer needed to detail every single experience or job, which makes for a long CV, or do they only want a one-page snapshot? So one-page snapshot, I would say, is more of a resume. And every job, they might want a resume or a CV. So I would look into, what the job is asking for. And this person said it's been some time since they've applied to positions. So Hubert, how would you answer that?
So, how should my CV look like? And I would say, off the bat, I'm not a CV expert. I mean, there's a lot of CV experts now online. And again, a good thing that's going for you is that part of the MSL Academy program is to actually help you build a resume that is competitive in the area that you want to apply for or the area of your expertise. So, and that's what I used. Beside that, I don't have a lot of expertise on CV. The length, I don't know. I don't know. I have a 3-pager CV resume, and that's what the MSL Academy helped me build. And since then, I've used it very effectively. So I'll refer you back to the Academy they have people that are doing just that, and they're very, very good
That's
at
true. Yeah, at the MSL Academy, we do that. In short, so that's one of the things that I do is I help people with their CVs. So I would say, what's most important with a CV is like ideally you want it 2 to 3 pages. Sometimes people use CV, sometimes people say resume. You want what's most important. Like you don't want that you volunteered at an animal shelter. Like that is so, so great that you did that, but that's not important for this particular role, right? So it's tailoring it to exactly what the role is asking for. And when I mean what the role's looking for, part of that is, for every single application, I would recommend going and cross-referencing the job description. Like I split my screen, job description, and on the other side, your resume or your CV. And make sure that there are different keywords from the job description in your CV or resume. Again, maximum 2 to 3 pages, only highlighting what is key and important to this role. And again, it's all about transferable skills. So if you're like, I was an elementary school teacher, that is, you have to take command and control of a classroom of people who of kids who are thinking, 70 million things at once and getting easily distracted. That's a great transferable skill that you were once an elementary school teacher. That means you know how to convey information and capture people's attention. So that's a really good example of like a transferable skill. Whereas like if you volunteered at an animal shelter, I would not put that on your resume, even if you were the director of, the program or something, just simply because it doesn't really translate directly to the roles or the skills that are important for achieving, success in the MSL role. So yeah, it's a lot of the reason I brought up the keyword thing in particular is because even before you get to the hiring manager or you get to, the next stage, they as in the company, they're going to be putting all the resumes through likely some sort of AI or algorithmic, platform. And so they're going to be looking for keywords. And so, for example, some companies call KOLs or key opinion leaders, they call them TOLs or thought leaders, or they call them thought leader liaisons versus MSLs, right? So you need to look into each company and look into each job description to say and see like, okay, they call them KOLs, here they call them TOLs, here they call them TSLs. So you have to change different parts of your resume, because otherwise if you put KOL, this company calls it a TOL, you're going to be automatically rejected because it's going to think, the computer is going to think you have zero KOL experience. And again,
my company is OL. So
yeah, OL. See, yeah, opinion leader. Exactly. See, it's different at every place. And so you have to be able to, every time before you click the button to submit, make sure that your resume is mirroring what the job description says. And again, like engaging with KOLs. There's a lot of different ways you engage with top KOLs. If you're a clinical pharmacist or an NP in the clinical setting, are you working cross-functionally with different healthcare providers? Oh, great. Then you're engaging with KOLs. Are there different vendors coming in that you're working with? That can also be viewed as a vendor relationship or a KOL, right? So you don't need to have that MSL experience where you are actually engaging with KOLs from a company or corporate perspective. How can you translate some of these other experiences that you've had to make your resume super compelling and use that pharma lingo? Because that's what they want to see, is like, if you're using the pharma lingo, they will understand like, oh, that means she understands the role and what this role entails because she's able to use the lingo, even though she has zero MSL experience on her resume. I hope that was helpful. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all the time because I review a lot of resumes and I help a lot of people through the academy and through, other mentorship. And so just getting your resume or CV right is so important to even land a hiring manager interview. It's just key, because the type of resume that you will apply to a clinical role or a researcher role or a clinical research role, all of those resumes are going to look so different from a resume that's tailored for industry. Just because the way that people talk in industry is completely different. Even though a lot of the skills that you have from other positions are transferable, the way that you talk about it is the most important. Amazing. Oh my gosh, it's 8:58. That was the quickest hour I think we've ever had. So thank you to everyone who sent in such good questions, for the engaging conversation. Hubert, for you sharing your expertise and your advice for everyone who's looking to break into the industry and really excel at this role. In the last few minutes, any last, takeaway that you can provide the audience?
Yes, Swati. I've been an MSL for 6 years now, and my pride is that I've been able to pull some of my friends, co-workers into this, uh, I would say, good area of pharmacy practice. Since I learned about MSL, pursued the job with MSL and got in. My job has been now to help other people get in and enjoy the quality of life, the life balance that they deserve as professionals. So if you are making the decision to join the MSL and you want to hear a true, um, I would say, what life testimony about how this has transformed people's life, you're talking to the right person. I look forward to doing everything I can to help you guys, and just let us know how we can help you. We'll get you there, no matter uh, your background as professionals, whether you're MD, NP, PA, pharmd. There's a place for you in the pharmaceutical industry, and I am sure you'll be very happy once you join.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And this was such a good session. Again, thank you to everyone who tuned in live, or anyone watching the recording. If you want to, re-listen to any of this, we'll be posting it on our YouTube channel, as well as uploading the audio to our podcast. So, any additional questions, anything we can do to help you or to answer, we're only a LinkedIn DM away, or, you can send us a message through the MSL Academy. So that's www.themslacademy.com. Alrighty, well, thank you so much. And until next time, Hubert. Alrighty, bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.